Hello, friendos. How's it going? It's the CODphilosopher, and I have another gameplay commentary for y'all. This is a Domination Groundwar on Raid that I have a pretty high score at the end, so I think y'all will find that pretty exciting. But less about the gameplay itself. I'd like to really start this commentary with a quote. It's Cogito ergo sum. It's by a French philosopher, René Descartes, and translated into French, it's Je pense, donc je suis. And translated into English, it is I think, therefore I am. It kind of goes along with my channel, I guess, being the CODphilosopher. But I'd like to go over a few things that I personally think about the game itself. I think Black Ops 2 is probably the best Call of Duty ever made in theory. I think the online gameplay is a bit lacking. There was too much time put into like the theater mode, or too much information put into the theater mode that doesn't even work, and the skill-based matchmaking system, which doesn't work on a lobby level, so it'll stack one team against another, which I think is complete BS. And I'm not talking about people running in parties, because I noticed running solo that I'll end up in games that I'm on a team with the best players according to the lobby leaderboard, and the other team is just SOL. But less about the game itself. I'd like to talk about a few of my thoughts. One, I think that as an organism, Homo sapiens are a very advanced creature. We're the most advanced creature on Earth. I think that we've evolved quite rapidly and are evolving at an exponentially increasing rate. But at the same time, I think that we can be collectively immature. I'd like to look at the United States presidential elections of recent, and to me they are nothing more than a popularity contest. We've gone from trying to vote for the best candidate to voting for one of two candidates that are just two extremes. And I think that the bipartisan system that exists in America is greatly detracting from our ability to elect the best potential candidate for United States president. I think that this is a problem that will eventually come to a head, and we will have to go from voting for the best Democrat or Republican to voting for the best American for president. The fact that we don't vote for the independent party or an independent party greatly pains me. I think that the United States government is misusing funds, and has been since the Reagan administration, to fight a war on drugs, which is just a war on American citizens. And this started as a fight against the crack epidemic, which there's not too much crack problems that are being neutralized as much as non-violent marijuana offenses. And going back to the crack epidemic that we were trying to go on a witch hunt against, the CIA was supplying the cocaine that was making all the crack for the crack epidemic during the Iranian-Contra conflict in order to fund that. So I think that this is a large fallacy and a farce, not to mention the scheduling of narcotics. If you look at the scheduling, the most dangerous compounds are to be Schedule 1 narcotics, which, as of right now, are made up of things such as psychedelic tryptamines, which don't fit the guidelines for being Schedule 1 narcotics. Schedule 1 is supposed to be that the compound has no medical use, as well as supposed to be highly addictive. Now, as far as the no medical use, I can kind of understand that. There's very little known medical uses, although there are organizations that are finding uses for some of these compounds, such as psilocybin or lysergic acid. But to say that they are highly addictive is pretty much an utter lie. I believe that there is a possibility of habitual addiction, but physical addiction is almost impossible, especially with compounds such as psilocybin or lysergic acid, which, if you were to take a handful of mushrooms or a hit of acid today and then take that exact same quantity tomorrow, you would find it very difficult to even know that you were on the compound. There's another drug, actually the most highly, I guess their quote-unquote most dangerous drug is dimethyltryptamine. It's a potent psychedelic that you actually find in your own brain chemistry. It is the compound that is released heavily at birth, at death, or during near-death experiences, and every night whenever you are in REM sleep. It actually causes you to dream. So if they're right in saying that it should be the most illegal compound, then I think we should all be arrested. And I personally think that would be a great misuse of funds as well. Why not arrest us all? But why don't we look at Portugal, for example, as far as their view on drugs? They had a huge heroin epidemic. They actually did have an epidemic there. I think I read somewhere that it was almost 70% of the population had a heroin problem, and Portugal decided to legalize everything. They took the funds that they were using to imprison people, put it into rehabilitation, and have found that their epidemic has dropped tremendously. They no longer have near the problem with drug use in general in that country. And I think that America, or the United States, is very slowly moving towards having similar ideas as far as drugs are concerned. If you look at Colorado and Washington, and hopefully maybe Hawaii in the near future, are moving in a very progressive way, legalizing marijuana, and I believe that some of the other softer drugs are going to be legalized in the future. Hopefully there will be a rescheduling of narcotics, because the current scheduling is at least a lie. I think that there's quite a bit as a society that we can learn and grow from. One thing that I do predict in the future is a global change, one that I don't think a lot of people are familiar with, and that is the fall of the American dollar as the international exchange currency. For example, if you are to buy a barrel of oil in Saudi Arabia, you actually pay American dollars for that. And this is something that is cyclical. Before the American dollar, it was the British pound, and whenever the British pound fell from the international exchange currency, Britain saw the worst decade in its history. So I think that as Americans, we need to prepare for what could possibly happen whenever our currency falls from the international exchange currency. I think that for the end of this commentary, I'd like to leave y'all with a quote, one that I actually prefer to the starting quote, and that is "Fallor ergo sum," which was a quote by St. Augustine, and it means "I err, therefore I am," and it was actually said 1,200 years prior to René Descartes. So I find it ironic that we all know Descartes' quote, but no one really knows what St. Augustine had said. And thank you very much for watching my video, and I hope to have some more content for y'all in the very near future, maybe some channel plans and some ideas. Thanks again, and have a good one.